Welcome to Papa Bear's Peppers, and I'm Harold, and today I'm going to be doing pH meter calibrations. Now, whether you're getting a new pH meter like this doctor meter, or you have a meter that you've had for a little while, it's just a standard pH tester, you have to do calibration. Now, whether you're doing hot sauce, or in my case when I'm pHing solutions, or even doing a soil slurry test, you have to make sure that your instruments are calibrated. I'm going to show you how to do an initial calibration, and it's very similar to doing a check on an existing meter. And in this case, I'm going to do an initial calibration, and then I'm going to check this meter and calibrate as needed. So stick around and let's get started. Every time you get done with it, you should rinse off your pH meters. Whenever you get done doing a feeding of any kind, I prefer distilled water and cleaning off that electrode, and then when you get done, shake it off just like that. And then I shook it and I put it right back in the case. Do not throw these lids away. Same thing with this one. And they normally will come with a little moisture in the end, and that's to ensure that there's moisture in there. And I shake it just like I did the other one, and I put the lid back on. Now I do that to make sure you do not want the diodes inside of here to dry out. I got a new pH meter by Dr. Meter right here, and I'm getting ready to calibrate it. And I'll tell you this, when you first get a pH meter, the first thing you should do is go through calibration. So the things you're going to need: 3 cups that will hold 250 milliliters of distilled water. Folks, you can't use tap water on this because you need something that's basically a very neutral and clean water source. So you're doing this to calibrate your meter. So I have 3 clean cups. Each one has 250 milliliters of distilled water in it. Now what I've done is I poured in each one of these solutions, and on the back it tells you 250 milliliters of distilled water, and then go ahead and stir it till all of the solution or the compound that comes in the packet is dissolved. So it's very important to just stir until you don't see it anymore. The last one I'm working on right now is my 9.18 solution. First thing I did is I have a 4th cup right here, just a shot glass, and this is distilled water. The one thing that you need to do is the gauge is going to come back automatically with a Celsius reading. So if you need Fahrenheit, what you'll do is you'll push and hold the calibration and the on-off button at the same time, like this. And what it's going to do is come on, and it's going to say right now Celsius. I don't want Celsius, so I'm going to hit calibrate again, long hold, and that switched it back to Fahrenheit. Once I got it where I want, I just simply turn it off. And that's how you'll calibrate this between your Celsius and your Fahrenheit. So there's step 1. Step 2, in the instructions, it tells me that I need to clean my diode on the bottom. So what I do is I come inside the distilled water and I just tap it slightly, and I'm cleaning it with distilled water. Again, it has to be distilled water, not filtered, nothing. This is a distilled water because you're making everything as neutral as possible. Now got it in, it tells you that you can turn it on at that point. And all I'm doing is sticking it in here and in this distilled water. And the great thing about this meter and some of the better high-end meters is that they're waterproof. My other meter that you've seen me use before, not so waterproof. Once I get doing that and just swirling it around in there, I'm going to turn it back off, and then I'm going to clean. Be careful around, don't just start going in here and and going to town on it. But what you're doing is cleaning the off inside of here, and I'm doing this gently. Don't get carried away in there. So now I've got to put on my old man glasses so I can read this, because the font is so small it's hard to read. So in calibration, it's also called the 3-point calibration, which means you should calibrate the meter with 6.86 solution, and then the 4.0 solution, and then move on to the 9.18 solution. And that's what we're going to do. So it tells me first to prepare my 6.86 solution, pH standard buffer solution. Press the on-off switch and turn it on. So I'm going to turn it on. Shake it appropriately. After the pH value is stable, press calibrate. So I'm waiting now. What I'm waiting for now is my gauge to stabilize on the number. So I'm watching it. And I have the portion down below, it's completely submerged. It's stabilizing at 6.59. Now this solution's already been stabilized, so I know it's correct, and I want to hold it still. And it's locked on at 6.59. Next is I'm going to press the calibrate button for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. The calibrate comes on. So what it did, it switched and went from calibrate, and then you'll see it go over and jump over, and it'll go to SA, and then it'll end it, which means it got to where it is, and now the gauge is showing 6.88. So I'm going to do it again. Hopefully I can do this and you can see what I do. I'm going to hit the calibrate button. Calibrate comes on, I release it. It's going to go through its automatic testing, SA, and then it ends. And then once it comes off, it's right there. So I've calibrated it to the 6.86, and it's relatively close. Now if I don't like what I see, I can do it again. There's 6.88. I'm okay with that. If I'm within thousandths, I'm happy with that. So I've got a good test there. So what I'm going to do now is I just want to see what it does. I turned it off and I'm going to turn it on. I want to see if it reads, and there it is. It's consistent. I'm okay with that. And I'm done with that one. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to clean the electrode with distilled water. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through this again with my 4.0 solution. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to turn it on. I double check and make sure that all of it is, and here you see right here, it's the 4.0 solution. I'm going to turn it on, and it's actually dialed in pretty good, but I'm going to go ahead and hit calibrate. I'm going to release it. It's going to go through its calibration process. It's memorizing 4.0. So this one's right on 3.99. That's within 1/100th of a percentage of that pH. I'm pretty happy with that. So I hit the button for 1 second, and I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to just turn it back on to see what the reading is. It's at 3.99. Clean with the electrode with the distilled water, and I'm going to do the third calibration on the 9.18. I'm just doing a little dab here and I'm drying it off. So I'm going to put it in the solution. I want to make sure, see I had a little bit on the bottom, so I want to make sure it's stirred completely. While I'm stirring, I will say that this kit came with a second calibration set, so if you do have a problem, you think things are really out of whack, you can retest it again, and you can buy these online, folks. I went ahead now and I've got my solution. Let's double check it. A couple of little pieces still, so I want to stir it. But you should always do this, folks. When you get a new pH meter, always calibrate it. Make sure that this is right before you start, or it could be off a whole percent. And it highly recommends when you first get your pH meter to calibrate it. So now I don't see anything in there, so we're going to do the final calibration at the 9.18. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on, and again you're going to see it come on, and it's pretty close. And we're going to let it stabilize, and I'm going to hit the calibrate button one more time till calibrate comes on, and then I'm going to release it. Now it's going to go through auto calibrate, SA, end. So now I'm hitting at 9.18. So I've got all my numbers. So right there, I'm on my money. So I'm good. I'm happy with what I'm calibrating. And I'm going to come back just as a sanity check. I'm going to check this one more time on my 6.86 solution and make sure that I'm in the ballpark. So as you can see right there, there's my hold mark, 6.87. And then I'm going to come in and do just one more sanity check on the 4.0. See what she comes up at. She's dropping right down in. And again, folks, when you do this, give it a minute, let it stabilize. And sometimes it's not like right that second. So know that a more accurate meter is going to take a second to drop down to what the pH actually is. That's the reading that I'm getting now from my 4.0 solution, so it's within 100. That's happy. So, folks, that's what you do to calibrate your meter. And again, all of these cups have been filled with 250 milliliters of distilled water and have been given the appropriate solutions. On the first one, a 6.86, the next one, a 4.0, and the third one is a 9.18. Now, when you do an initial test, you're going to take your meter out, make sure that it's clean. You want to make sure that your instrument's always clean before you test it. You shake it a few times, and then what you're going to do is dry it off as best you can. Trying to get everything dry, just like that. You see that bulb in there, and that's what you're trying to make sure everything's clean and it's free of impurities, anything that could make the test erroneous. So I go in there and clean it. Now that I have it cleaned off and wiped down as best as I can, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. Now, the first thing you're going to do is check the calibration. You're going to come into your 6.86 solution. And it looks like my reading is a little low. It's at 6.75, as you can see here. Now, for me to make sure, kind of do a sanity check, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my newly calibrated meter, and I'm going to test this just to see that it comes out at my normal levels. And I know that this one calibrated to 6.88, and so that's what I'm looking for it to show up at. Okay, you see here that it went to 6.88, and I'll put a hold on that just so you can see it. And that's at 24.9 degrees, which is what you wanted it at its optimal conditions. So, I know that my solution is correct. So now I know I'm going to rinse this meter off with my distilled water, and I'm going to shake it, and then I'm just going to put it away. That's all you need to do, kind of keeping that probe in there damp. So I know that I've got a problem, and I'm going to let it sit. So it's always, you're going to do the 6.86 on your first calibration. I'm going to hold it for 5 seconds. I'm going to put this in here. Now I release and it flashes. and it's at 6.87. So that's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to take it out. The cleaning distilled water over here, it has nothing in it. It's just straight distilled water. Now I shake it off. I'm going to just turn it off for a minute. I'm going to turn it back on now, and I'm going to come into the 4.0. That's this one, the 4.0 buffer powder. This solution is with 250 milliliters. Okay, I'm going to put it on, put it in, make sure that everything's stirred up, there's nothing in the bottom, and I'm going to press and hold. I'm going to release it, and it's holding, flashing at 4.00. Now it's calibrated at 4.01. That's what I'm looking for. So now I've rinsed it off again, and I'm going to come over. Basically, you're going to take it up on the higher end of what it's going to do. So I clean that off. Now I want to check it against my 9.18 solution. So I stick it in. Once I get it in, I'm going to go ahead and press down the calibration button again. On this one, you press and hold for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. And you release. Now again, this one jumped up to 9.19, so that's within 1/100th of accuracy. And that means I'm pretty happy with what I'm seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off. Now what I'm going to do is just a little sanity check. I want to see if my calibration really is in line. So I do that, I shake this off. I'm going to just dry it off. Now once you do it, you get it calibrated, you should be fine to come in right into this solution. I want to come in here and I want to see what I get. And I'm just doing a gentle stirring because I want to make sure the solution is mixing and blending. And right there I'm at 6.85. Let's see if it'll lock in on 6.86. Now this particular one, you don't want to go above the water line. And there you go, folks. I was at 6.86. So now I know my meter's dialed back in again. Sometimes you have to do this. Sometimes you have to dial these back in. You should never think that your pH meter is always just perfect. If for whatever reason you just start getting funky readings with your pH meter, it's easier to check it and make sure it's right than it is to let it go and give erroneous readings. Because for me, when I'm dealing with my pH for my soil, and even when I'm dealing with pH for my hot sauces, you have to make sure that that pH is correct. If you don't, again, you could hurt somebody, or you could hurt your plants. You get an inaccurate reading of what your pH is for your soil or your solution, it could be either really high or really low. And in this case for me, if it's really low, I could be not activating my solution, my nutrients that I'm putting on my plants, and thereby not activating them. The plants stop taking it up, and I could possibly get a nutrient lock. So these are very important things. And especially if you're dealing with a hot sauce, you need to make sure that that meter is reading correctly. So, and that's how you calibrate a new pH meter or recalibrate your existing pH meter. If you need to, go online and get some of the pH testing kits just so you have them around. It's better to be safe than sorry. And I hope this helps you out with calibrating your pH meters and making it just a little bit easier. This is Harold. Have a great day and keep growing.